Welcome back to Port Elizabeth, the beautiful city. This is part 41, and I'm starting here with a picture of the 2010 football stadium for the 2010 Soccer World Cup. So this is a new feature of North End in Port Elizabeth, right next to the North End Lake. But on this outing, which I did on the 7th of February 2015, 5 years after the World Cup, I looked at North End from the stadium, which you can see in the background here. I parked here in Rhodes Street, which is a politically incorrect name, right beside Governor Becky Avenue, which is a politically correct new name for Main Street, but I call it Main Street, and it's up Main Street that I would walk. So just have a look at that nice church there, sort of Dutch Reformed, I think. And then into Main Street, looking up. So I didn't head that way, which is north towards Uitenhage. It becomes Uitenhage Road, I think. A lot has changed since I got here in 84, but we'll have a look at what remains as we head towards Mount Road. Some buildings were in quite a bad way. That's Broadway House. So you can see this is really this is how the old town, it stretched all along Main Street. Actually, Main Street changed names sort of midway and became Princess Avenue, I think, or Road, and then something else. But then it all just became known as Main Street. And this was really the Motown of South Africa, North End. We had Ford, General Motors, and up the road in Uitenhage we have Volkswagen. And so Port Elizabeth was and still remains a major motor manufacturing centre, but much of the retail work has now moved mainly to the William Moffat Drive or Avenue, whatever. So these were the buildings that sort of shot up here in the, I suppose, early 20th century, a lot of them. Now it's become pretty run down, I would say. I've actually walked, you'll see this yellow stuff here. So this is the border of the what do they call it? The sort of big bus network that they tried to introduce for the 2010 World Cup. It never really has got off the ground. So 12 years later, well, at this point, 2015, 7 years later, but still today, they aren't running these mega buses that are supposed to really transform the city. So I walked a lot of the way up those middle lanes that have been earmarked for the buses, which don't actually really run. So this is called Shepherd Street with the stadium in the background. Because I didn't grow up in PE, I don't really know this part of the world too much. You know, I used to know East London quite well, although not so much the West Bank, which is the industrial part of the city. Likewise, this is the industrial part of PE, and I don't really know it. I mean, it's one of the industrial areas. It's quite a big industrial area, city, really. But that's a nice building up on the right there, I must say, this one. Certainly got qualities, eh? And that's the Adelaide Arcade and the Red Lion Hotel. I mean, which self-respecting town doesn't have a red lion? Bagshaw Street. I think, yeah, this is where the Home Affairs Department is now, in here. So every Port Elizabethan at some point has to queue to get into this place to renew your passport, get your ID card, etc. It's another nightmare, like queuing for your driver's license every 5 years to renew it, or queuing to renew your annual car registration, whatever. So here's Adelaide Arcade. I like these arcades with their arched windows. Silver Oaks House. So that's a great design, eh? Of course, the shops are all, yeah, pretty dodgy places. Here's the Red Lion. Never went into it in its heyday, I must say. See this sign there. So you wonder what's become of it. That sign looks old. Look, they've got the original steam engines from the UK. And then this is Fraser Street to the left, and Kim Singh has his place there. So looking back down Main Street and Quick Street ahead. So when there's maybe the guy there's a exhaust place I think called Quicks. It's like chick scrap metal. Maybe there's a Quick named after somebody called Quick. So looking back at the Red Lion Hotel, in its heyday, it must have been quite a feature of this town. And here we got a building in severe distress. I don't know what they've done to it yet in recent times, but at this point it was looking pretty bad. And the Chinese motor companies, see, they're in there with Daihatsu. Taft Street. So it'd be quite interesting to actually walk down all these little side streets. But, you know, I felt insecure enough walking in Main Street. Downing Street, eh? With the Golden Mile Centre next to it. So this is actually nowhere near the ornate London centre of politics. Here you can see these dedicated bus lanes that were not used at all. I mean, I walked the whole way and there wasn't a single bus came along there. Excuse me. Matthews Lane up on the left. And Thiel Street on the right, which you can't see. AD 1935. So I guess this is Art Deco in a sort of understated way. Broad Street, not visible on the left, and a gable coming up. And in the distance, that's a former Trust Bank building. And this was apparently Porter's Outfitters. And here's Broad Street, a very wide thing with even a island in the middle. I think there might be public toilets there. Down this one side of Broad Street, so that takes you to the freeway, and I think you come off the freeway the other side. On the way back, I visit these interesting warehouse design buildings. Court chambers here, and that's where I would often go. It's across the road from the magistrates' court, and I'd often go there for briefings by the United Democratic Front and the Black Sash in the 80s as a reporter. Here it is, court chambers. Quite a nice looking Art Deco building. And there across the road is the law courts where in the late 84, I spent several months reporting in here. Now they've extended it massively here. I haven't been in there, thankfully. So this was quite an interesting building. Apparently this is Devised Street. Oh, I did go down to, no, this is another building with these gabled facades, which are interesting and attractive. 1903. So that's apparently the date is on there, up there, yeah. And even further on, there's two more gables. Didn't get to that next lot. So these are the law courts. They were built in, I think, the 1920s or around 1930. Court chambers again. And a view, side view of the law courts. And this is the front. You don't no longer access it from the front. It's all at the back. So this is just now a redundant facade. Old coat of arms of Port Elizabeth is up there. It's just been painted over. It says here 1934. Let's just see. Oh yeah, next to the coat of arms in the middle, 1934. So that's, look how decoratively they've plastered stuff on this wall. And then there, on every corner there are these motifs and some interesting gravestones down here. Maybe the death sentences were passed or something. But these very colonial looking sailing ships there, yeah, just won't do. So we in Graham Street. So this is the side street, yeah. Got an aerial view. So this is the old post office. Here's Main Street. Now we're walking up here, and this is all new. Main Street, old Trust Bank, and this was the Barclays Bank building. Yeah, quite an edifice. But we're heading down Graham Street. And look at these on this Barclays building. There are these interesting kind of relief motifs or friezes. Yeah. That's a nautical thing. seagulls and crayfish and stuff. So unfortunately I couldn't get in here, but there's a little fresco-y thing painted on the outside there, which I sort of used my cheap camera to zoom in as best I could. And it seems to indicate a meeting between the colonial people and the Xhosa warriors or whatever. And this is now what's become of that building. So here's some sheep, tires, ostrich feathers. That was Port Elizabeth probably 120 years ago. You know, exporting all these things. They make tires here as well. Don't know what this sign is. It's looking back at the new law courts buildings. And here's electricity poles apparently on this thing. Not very clear. Oh, here we got them. So that's all about bringing electricity to the city. The new section, sanitized decoration, and then back down Graham Street. Just going to look at a few more of these. There's dolphins and things flying around. This is in Main Street. Yeah, this is quite interesting. I'd love to know who did this. Relief carving. Anchors, propellers, very much the nautical theme. Eh? So we're about to head on. Eben Donji's building coming up there, famous place. Oh yes, so this thing's known as Integrated Public Transport Service. These lanes that are walked in and unencumbered by traffic. Rhodes Street coming up on the left. I think we're going to end this walk at Mount Road. Yeah, so I went down the street and I found this little church that is now something else, like a business. Quite sad. Corporation building. Back to Governor Mbeki Avenue we go. Elib House. It's up in that corner there. So it's another Art Deco building. Okay, so this is a corner of Mount Road and a famous garage, which I'm not sure is still there, Sharwood's. So just headed up Mount Road to look at that gabled building there. It seems it's quite a weird design, because this gable looks kind of Mannerist, I think they call it when it's, I don't know, it just doesn't really work. It's not a gable because it's got this big block next to it. Anyway, quite weird. And the bottom of Mount Road, just looking back at that gabled thing. And look at the pavement here. So that, we're still heading back down Mount Road to Main Street. Apparently there was a major sort of, some sort of shop there, I can't remember. Oh, Giddy's, yeah, somebody said Giddy's used to be here. The Giddy limit. It's actually at this Giddy limit that I think we're going to have to stop for now, and we'll continue our walk down Main Street next time. Cheers.